Welcome.
The joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 252 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. How are you? We're going to be live hacking on Firefox today. Pardon me, I just finished some lunch, like just a bite of it. So my mouth's a little, I probably should have brushed my teeth or something, but there's apologies if there are mouth sounds. I've got the microphone, the high density microphone working again, so you're getting this like high quality mouth sound stuff. So hope that's okay. Let me switch to my desktop. All right, so it's June 16th, 2021, episode 252. Classic reminder, no plan survives breakfast. I think I know what I want to do today. I think I know what the plan is. I think I know what I'm going to work on, but it might not go according to plan. Things happen, things get in the way, things might interrupt, things might, I might get stuck or things might go wrong. The software I'm working with might suddenly lock up or decide to update itself and stop working. That's all okay. You will get to watch me struggle through that and deal with it. And that's kind of how it goes. Like it's not pre-recorded. There's no script really. I'm going to capture software development as I do it. And sometimes that includes things going wrong. That's the first thing. The second thing is the agenda that we're looking at is something that you have access to. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, check out the details for the video. It's somewhere around the video. If you're in YouTube, it's in the video description. And for the people who are watching on Twitch, I will give you a link right now through the Twitch chat. Episode 252, which is a palindrome. Very nice. So there you go. There's the agenda link. I just dropped it in the Twitch chat. Right. So what are we doing today? There is a bug that I'm working on that I was thinking we could try and finish off. So this is bug 1712750. The clear recent history modal has the old UI. So let's take a look at this bug. I've actually done a bunch of work on it already. It was actually a lot simpler than I thought. The old clear recent history modal has the old UI. What is the clear recent history modal? What is happening? Well, thankfully, the person who filed this bug, Rares, 22 days ago, included a screenshot. Maybe you're familiar with this dialog. This dialog is something you can access if you have the menu here. You go to history and you say clear recent history. You get this dialog, and it's using the sort of the old native widget style. Like this looks like a separate window. These look like the native checkboxes, a native menu list, and these are native buttons. And what we're supposed to make it look like is more like what's in the settings. Like if I say clear recent history, so this is the style it's supposed to look like. This is what we call the like MR1 or Proton styling with these button shapes, non-native buttons, menu lists, and checkboxes. Man, can't word today. What's going on? So doing that was actually pretty straightforward because we'd done that to a number of our existing modals, and I wrote this very small patch to do it, and it does the job, and we can actually see that in action right now. If I let me just see where I am in my source tree. Yeah, it's this one. So let's check out this change. Oh, it looks like I accidentally based this change off of this other cleanup patch that I don't want to do that. I'm going to rebase this first. So I'm going to rebase this revision on top of Central. So let me pump up my font so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to rebase this change right here, which is accidentally based on this one. You can see the line, the dependency here. I'm going to rebase it on top of Central. So rebase that one on top of Central. Let it think about that for a second. And once I demonstrate that this is working, the real work for today, I think, isn't, going to be a lot of style work. It's about updating tests so that it exercises. There was a pre-existing test suite that exercised the old school dialogue that no longer works with the new school dialogue. Like it continues to open the old one, and we should probably make it use the actual dialogue rather than, you know, or make it use the actual one that ships to users with this change. So let's build this, and let's take a look at the at the change. It does look like I did add this fallback in the event that the G dialog box doesn't exist, and I'd seen that in a couple of different places, so I kind of defensively added that in. Like there's one here. If we don't have a suitable parent, but maybe that's not possible. And maybe I should just get rid of that condition, because I don't want to be able to, like, I don't think it's useful to be able to do this old thing anymore. So maybe I'll just remove that. So let's start by looking at the change. We'll run, or looking at the behavior rather. Okay, so history, clear recent history. So this is the old style. We don't want this. Did I accidentally? Yeah, I forgot to check out the thing I just rebased. That's why. Or update to it. Okay, so we'll build it. Sorry for the wasted time there. We're going to run it again. Okay, so we go to history, clear recent history, and this is what it's supposed to look like. This looks correct. You know, it's window modal. It's attached to this window. It prevents you from doing anything until, like, you've made a decision. That's the goal. But you know, it has the new style. Okay. If we run the tests, however, it opens up the old window. So that's the thing I want to change. But I also, before I forget, I'm gonna update the code here. Where's Sublime? Speaking of update, I updated Sublime recently. This is Sublime Text 4? Is this, where's the build 4107, but where's the version number? Change log. Yeah, this is build 4, or version 4, and I updated it today, and it's okay. So far, nothing that you know, nothing that has surprised me. No unpleasant surprises, which is, you know, that's good. So let's see. Here's what I want to update. Shows a sanitization dialog to the user. If the parent window is present and has a G dialog box, that will be used to show the dialog. Otherwise, a new top level window will be created to show the dialog. Now, originally, I was planning on removing this condition, but it looks like there's an optional argument. And if there's an optional argument, that's when it opens up its own separate window. And do we need to support that still? Let's take a look. Who calls this function? Sanitizer, whoop, show UI. Who calls that? There are two places it's called. One here, and that will definitely include a window because this is part of the browser window code. And then there's one here where we get a top window. This is if we are in the URL bar. So I really think you're always going to get a window here. I'm curious to know about the history of this function. Maybe there used to be a case where we wanted to show it on its own. So let's see if we can get some history here. Sanitizer.jsm. Who added this documentation? Convert sanitize to a module. That was back in 2018. Show UI. And let's see. And who was calling show UI back then? Sanitizer show UI. Oh, sorry. That it doesn't allow me to look at that particular snapshot within SearchFox. So maybe what I can do is look to see whenever this line was first added. when we convert it to a module, right? Okay, let's look at the raw diff here. So who was calling it? It's called from sanitizer sanitize. And that, oh, I see over here it was once called with null. And is that still a method? Sanitize. Well, it is, but that doesn't that like the sanitize function actually does the sanitization. It doesn't show the UI for it. Well, so the dialog itself calls sanitize or sanitize now. So I got a feeling that it's okay to assume that the window will have to be included. Like I'm not seeing any callers that I'm concerned with that might ever not supply a window. Like if we're here in the URL bar, you have to have a window in order to have the URL bar. We were checking the window here. Like whoever calls open clear history dialog is from the URL bar provider. Like you have a URL bar, you have a browser window. And same with the other one here in this command element. When you call sanitizer show UI, you're passing a window, you're in a browser window. That's what this included file runs inside of browser. So I think we can actually remove this optional. We'll make it so that it is non-optional. You have to include it. And we're going to fix some of the wrapping there. If parent window. And what we'll do instead is if you don't have a gdialog box, throw new error. Expected sanitizer show UI expected a browser window argument. And then we just do this chunk. And we don't need to do this anymore. The app modal thing, we can get rid of that. Like, boom. In fact, I wonder, is it still useful to have this be a const? Probably not, because we only use it in the one place. So we can do this. Much simpler. Okay. Shows the sanitization dialog to the user, the browser window. Throws. I think that's something we use now. Throws. If if parent window is undefined or doesn't have a gdialog box. Delete. What? Oh, okay, so it's fine with it. Returns after the dialog box has closed. I think that's it. And now for the tests. So the test is here, browser underscore sanitize dialog. And if you watch as this test runs, you'll notice that it's opening the old school window. Let's just wait for this to run. Yeah, see how it's holding this old school window, and we don't want that anymore. So we have to modify it to do the new thing. The purpose of this test is not to fully flex the sanitized timespan code. This test checks the UI of the dialog, makes sure it's correctly connected to the sanitized timespan code. Some of the code was taken from browser sanitized timespans. So one of the things that I learned while briefly examining this file before, like when I was working on the other part, is that there's this class called a window helper. And what do they do here? Window helper. It's right here at the bottom. And its job is to like kind of wrap the dialogue and provide convenience methods. And I think we want to update this to, you know, rename it and update it. Like I guess it's handy to have this thing that knows how to talk to the underlying dialogue. We'll just update it so it knows how to both spawn and update and manipulate the new window modal. And I don't think there are any cases where like window helper is passed an argument. So the dialogues and aside DOM window, we don't, I think, need that anymore. What we do need is the ability to spawn the dialogue, and then the ability to manipulate it while it is open. And it's a little tricky because it spins a nested event loop. So you have to open up the modal. What does it do? And then as soon as the DOM window modal is open, then it calls the onload event handler. It like queues an event to do that. And when it unloads, it does these things. Now we also have a bunch of prompt test utilities that we can probably reuse here, because these prompt test utils are exactly for these kinds of dialogues, I think. Well, are they? These are for prompts. Wait for prompt. Oof. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we can't use this. Dialogue test. No. Handle prompt. Let's just quickly see how this is used. Prompt test utils, handle prompt. So it might also be possible to use this with the dialogue. Where, oh, check dialogue. What is the dialogue? Prompt promise, wait for prompt, modal type content. I got a feeling we can use this thing. And then open. Okay. So here's what we'll do. We're going to update this class. First of all, I want to call this, instead of window helper, we're going to call it dialogue helper. So let's find and replace all of the instances of window helper, because it's not going to be a window anymore. Window helper, dialogue helper, or hamburger helper. Replace all. Okay. I don't think we need this argument anymore. So we can get rid of that. Promise closed. I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time like updating these tests, so I might try and keep the interface the same. The dialogue. I'm gonna say this dot dialogue null. what we'll do is let's start with the open function. It opens the clear recent history dialog. Before calling this, set the onload to a function you execute onload. It should close the dialog when done so the test may continue. To function to execute on unload. The unload is optional. If it returns true, the caller is expected to call promise async updates at this point. If false, okay. This looks pretty old school, this stuff, but we're gonna try and keep the same interface. So we're gonna like execute an onload function and then make sure that on unload we, if possible, call the onUnload function if one exists. So how do we open the dialog? I believe what we're gonna do is we're gonna directly interact with sanitizer. Like, do we have sanitizer in here? We do. Sanitizer, time span, everything. So we can just call like sanitizer show UI parent window, and we'll pass window in the context of the test. Like, I think that works. Unless we want to construct this thing. If you want to associate it with a different window, maybe that would be handy. When this dot win equals win. So to do document. Show UI this dot win. I am noticing with the new Sublime like some responsiveness issues when I'm scrolling and stuff. I wonder what that's all about. So that's actually going to spin a nested event loop when you do this, and that's not gonna allow the test to continue unless what we do is we queue up some things. So with the prompt test utils, what is it? Prompt test utils. We need to make sure prompt test utils is something we have in here. So we'll bring those in. And then I believe there is a handle next prompt. Wait for the prompt, interact with it, and click the specified button to close it. Can we just wait for the prompt? Yeah, this is what we want. Wait for the prompt to open. That's what we want. Wait for prompt. Parent is the browser window. Parent of the prompt. This can be either the parent window or the browser. The prompt attributes to filter for, the type. This is very handy. So what we'll do is we'll like say wait for prompt. And then we're gonna have to pass the browser window this dot win. And then there are probably a bunch of other things to pass, but for now it's like what prompt promise equal that, and then we're gonna need to do this part inside of a nested or its own function because it runs a nested event loop. So we don't want to be blocked by sanitizer show UI. We want to be able to like continue. So then I'll like let dialog equal await prompt promise, and then maybe that should actually be like let dialog promise equal. Okay, let's see where that gets us actually. I'm going to comment the rest of this out, and then we're going to just run a single one of these tasks. We'll run only, I think we can do 2, right? Only. Let's see what happens if we do it this way. SmurfD wonders whether or not Sublime is busy indexing. That could be. Could be. Okay, so yeah, I've got an await inside of a non-async function. That's an issue. Okay, 651. Okay, modal type is mandatory. So I need to supply the correct for prompt. Modal type. I believe what we're working with here is something called a this is a window modal. So modal type is services modal type tab. I think it should be modal type window. I could be wrong, but modal type tab, modal type window. Ooh, no, we probably want modal type internal window because that's the new kind. All right, let's see what it does now. Show me dialog. No. Show UI expected a browser window argument. Haha. Right. It's an arrow function. What is this? Let window. Do I need like a closure? Or does it not yet have its like browser window argument? That's interesting. But does it open when I do it this way? It does. So what's the dealio? Whenever I pass show UI. Oh, because I am not constructing this properly in the first test. Yeah. Window. Yes. Cool. All right, it shows up. Now, one of the things I want to do actually, now that I think about it, is function dialog helper is to default this to window if it's not supplied. Because I think most of them are going to do that. They're not going to supply anything, so we'll fall back. But it allows the flexibility where we could, in theory, open a second window, and this doesn't have to assume that it's going to be like you can override, and I think that's handy. Maybe one could argue that you don't need it. If there's no test in here that doesn't need a second window, and so maybe I'll remove it, but we'll see. Let's see if we get past this await dump. Done awaiting. No. And we didn't run the init one, but entering test bound default state, and we do not actually get the dialog promise to resolve. So I wonder if this wait for dialog, how does that work? Wait for prompt, rather. Is it ever seeing anything? Test topic. All right, let's dump saw the topic. Let's at least see whether or not it sees the topic. And then if it does, then we can step through and see where it falls over. It does not see the topic. Uh-oh. Oh, because the modal type that I passed, maybe whether it's a tab or window prompt, maybe I need to supply actually this, not internal window, but type window. I wonder if type internal window is an internal enum that I shouldn't be using. That makes sense. Still not liking it. All right. Let's step through this wait for prompt stuff. Prompt test utils .jsm. Oh man, all right. Well, that did not work. Let us start by putting a debugger statement there. Problem of laziness. The thing I wanted to set a breakpoint in hadn't been loaded yet, so I couldn't set a breakpoint in it. And by the time, in order to kick it off, like I kicked it off in order to like lazily load the module I wanted to set a breakpoint in, and then we were already past the point where I wanted to set the breakpoint. So, fa la la. All right, here we go. Let us step through. So we're going to set up this wait for prompt business. I'm going to step into this. There is a modal type. The parent is this. It's not. Yeah. Parent is a window. Parent browser. There's a selected browser. Okay. We're going to look at the modal type. Is it a common dialog? Let's find out. If modal type is window, okay, it is, then we have the topic being common dialog loaded. And we're going to set a breakpoint there. We're going to await for this topic to be observed. So I know that await topic observed is going to register an observer, which is good. Let's see what you want. Opens the thing and no dice. No dice. We do not have that observer notification firing. So that's the wrong topic. Maybe we're listening to the wrong topic. So maybe instead of modal type window, it's supposed to be something else. What was if modal type is modal type window or tab prompt sub dialog and modal type is modal type tab, or like maybe I can return false here. It's not a common dialog. What happens? Because we returned true before. So now return false, and let's see if that's better. No, not better. All right. Common dialog loaded is fired by notify common dialog.jsm, which is fired by on load of common dialog prototype. So let's do that next. Common dialog.jsm. We're going to put a breakpoint right at the top. Do I? Oh, I didn't even open JS Debugger. Come on. Come on. I'm getting out of practice here. Should have known better. Oh well. Okay. So we're at the beginning of our test function actually, or within our test code. So I'm going to say like, okay, set that stuff up. Okay, that's interesting. We never actually reached this part of common dialog on load. I should double check that it's, no, it's never been loaded. How does this thing work? gdialogbox.open. What is that? Browser.js. This dot open. says sub dialogue. Interesting. What I think I want to do is see if I can find an example of, like, maybe prompt test utils is very much not the right tool. Maybe I'm completely misunderstanding how I'm supposed to test this thing. So let's see if there are other things that use gdialogbox that are tested. I hope so. So there's one here for upgrade dialog. That I suspect is tested. Show upgrade dialog. Who calls that? Here's some tests. Wait for dialog. Browser test utils promise alert dialog. Now we're talking. Okay. Okay. That's what I want. I want promise alert dialog. Waits for a dialog to open, clicks the specified button, waits for the dialog to close. Wait for condition. Button action. Now, wait for dialog to open and clicks the specified button. This one doesn't actually have it close. It just opens it, which I think maybe we want this one. Promise alert dialog open. And then we choose what button we want to click. Well, that might be at odds with what we want to do in here. How does this thing work? Promise alert dialog open. It's really just waiting for sub dialog loaded, and then oh, and it looks like button action is optional. If there's a button action, then we'll do it. So we can still use this. Callback. Oh, there's a bunch of stuff in here that's useful. Options, callback. Okay, okay, I think we can use this. Promise alert dialog. So we don't need prompt test utils anymore. That was the wrong thing to use. What we want is browser test utils. Promise alert dialog open. And then no button action. The URI that we're going to be waiting for. In this case, it's the sanitize dialog URI. And then an object that is callback and is subdialog. I believe this is a subdialog. So is subdialog true? Something prettify this. Come on. Okay. And then I don't think we actually have to do this part anymore. That was because I wasn't passing it. So we can do this. And then it should be, yeah, dialog promise, wait for the dialog. Now, what does it resolve with? It returns with the promise resolves the domino for the dialog when fired and the specified button is clicked, and it resolves with the actual window object itself. Okay, that I can work with. All right, let's see what happens. Done. All right, good. I can work with that. So that is, we're at the point where like we can do stuff. So it's loaded, And then we want to call the, oh man, how's the rest of this work? Loaded is true. If, why is unload fire before loaded? Okay, what we want to do is add an unload event listener, dialog, add event listener. We can probably just copy this. If win.name is not equal to sanitize dialog, why would that be the case? We made sure that it was the one that we care about, so we're not going to care about that. No. We can make this a once event listener, so we don't need to do the removal again. Once true. wh.win equals win. Why would we do that? Some exceptions that reach here don't reach the test RFs, but okay is due. Okay, async function if wh on unload Here's what I'm gonna do. Arrow function time. Arrow function time. I don't even think we use the event. So arrow function time. Async. Boop. If this dot on unload, then this dot on unload, and then this dot resolve closed. Now pretty all this up. I think we can get rid of a lot of this. Now we need to do the onload event handler. So we'll do that here now that the unload event handler is why do we have to do that inside of a execute soon? I'm not sure, but we'll do it anyways just to not mess with it. Onload, and then this like Mac OS specific thing is no longer relevant, so I think we can get rid of that. All right, I think this will work. And then this dot dialog is what I guess we'll do it. This dot dialog unload. Resolve closed. This dot dialog equals null. Probably a good idea. Okay. Now let's go through the rest of the functions here. Accept dialog. Presses the dialog's OK button. Now, in this case, I think promise alert dialog open. Let's see who uses this. Promise. No, I want to see someone who uses the return value. Yeah. When gedit item overlay. So it's actually the window scope of the dialog. Okay. So in that case, sanitizer dialog or sanitizer.xhtml. What is it? Sanitizer.xhtml. The scope of this thing is where we're at. let dialogue equals this. I say accept dialogue. Dialogue L is this dot dialogue dot document query selector dialogue. I think that'll work. Cancel dialogue. This dialogue document query selector dialogue. Cancel dialogue. Let's see if that's far enough along to give us the first test. Select duration. Let's also see what that does. Select duration. This to get duration value. This is warning panel visible. Return this dot get warning panels not hidden. Okay. Dialogue. Dialogue. I might as well update all of these to be using that. Okay, let's see if that's enough to pass the first test. Fingers crossed. I got a good feeling about this. Nope. Warning panel should not be visible. Got true, expected false. Interesting. Warning panel should not be visible for everything. Warning panel. Let's go to the very first test. That's what we're running here. We'll set a debugger there. Okay. Select duration. So we expect the warning panel to be visible. Is that true? Is warning panel visible? Is false. Right. We passed that time. Okay, so I think what's going wrong here is that we're running the onload event too early. Notice, because it passed that time, it's probably because the onload event handlers, for some reason, happening way too soon. Dialog, promise alert dialog open. Wait for condition. Yeah, we should probably make sure that like everything is fully loaded. Promise alert dialog open. How does this thing work again? Await DOM window. The distance for load event because the alert class are been added. What happens if I don't use is subdialog? Just out of curiosity. Okay, not the right move. Okay. It is a subdialog. We wait for the dialog to load. Now, what's the thing that does the hiding? I guess is the next step. Sanitize.js. Sanitize everything. Warning panel. Is warning panel visible? Is get warning panel. Okay, so what's the thing that manipulates this thing? is in sanitize dialog.js. Warning box.hidden is true. That's in sanitize dialog. When G sanitize prompt dialog init fires, and that occurs when G sanitize, who calls init? G sanitize dialog.js. Here. Okay. Well, let's add some logging. Sanitize prompt dialog init. And then the hiding. Hiding the warning box. So this should fail, but the logging will tell us if the order is what we expect it to be based on the hypothesis. So should fail, should not be visible. Entering, skipping, bound init, skipping test bound. What? I wonder if it's important that this thing does its job. Was blank slate. It's all history visits and form entries. Oh, okay. That's not that important. It never runs its init function. Sanitize.xhtml. Onload init. Well, there's G sanitize dialog. And who call? What's the difference between sanitize.js and sanitize dialog.js? Sanitize.js, sanitize dialog.js. Where are those used? Sanitize.js. Is used in preferences, just preferences. Okay. So this is not relevant. It's sanitize dialog.js that is relevant. And this init function is not being called. Is this script being executed? Running sanitize dialog. Done running. Another thing we might want to do actually is mock build faster. Fizz equals fart in Swedish. Thank you, Smurf D. That is interesting. Interesting knowledge. I bet you're bringing that up because you're seeing fizz, F-I-S everywhere, as short form for fission. What is fission in Swedish? Okay. Test start, sanitize dialog, running sanitize, done running sanitize dialog. I don't think we ever run that. We never run the dialog prompt dialog init function. Onload, window, onload. I wonder what if we were to let the like if we were to spin the event loop a few times. execute soon, show UI. If we were to like await new promise, resolve, set timeout. You're not supposed to do this, but this will just allow us to prove our case. We wait 5 seconds. Does it ever run? Yes, it does run eventually. Okay. So promise the alert dialog is open. Dialog promise. Dialog.add event listener load. Loaded? Is that a thing that could occur? No. Unless we just are not giving it enough time. Hold on. There we go. Right. Okay, so we do have to wait for this load event. Run on load on next tick so that G sanitize prompt dialog, it can run first. Right. Verify. Let's run that a few times. Let's just make sure it doesn't, there's nothing event, like event orders, like sensitive in here. This is going to get a little flashy. So if you have like light sensitivity or like maybe epilepsy or something, maybe look away because it's going to be a lot of bright flashing lights for a second. What's the reason that you need to wait for it to work? So Smurf D, the reason I need to wait is I need to wait for the initialization function of the dialog to run before I do any of the checks, because that's where a lot of the logic that we're trying to test is. So I needed to get the right sort of loading semantics, loading behavior. There's like waiting for the dialogue part to load, and then there's waiting for the content to load. And I think I was only doing the first and not the second. And the second is what keys off that initialization function, which is what we're trying to test. So I had to keep waiting for that second part, which is why I needed to add the new load event listener. Hopefully that answers your question. And, you know, if this is working as I think it is working, then we might be able to start turning on a bunch of other tests. We might almost be done here, actually. And that might be a very successful Joy of Coding episode where we'll walk out, all these tests will pass, we can put up the patch for review and call it a day. I'm just running this in chaos mode. It worked, so we're all good. Let's try turning on a bunch of the other tests now. So instead of doing only, we'll run them all. Oh, not with verify, just straight up. Okay, that one's broken. Can't access document this dot. Okay, so I think I missed something. 387. in here. Dialogue. Are there any other this dot wins? Yeah, there are a few. I wonder if underscore dialogue should actually just become dialogue, or maybe it should become win again. That kind of makes some sense now that I think about it. What do I call this dot win? This dot dialogue. So maybe it's like browser win equals window. Browser win. And then this dot win equals null. And then I'm going to change all of the underscore dialogues to be win again. So let's see what happens now. Pew, pew, pew. Expected a browser window argument. Whoops. Show you why. Oh, browser win, of course. Hooray! We did it. We got it, folks. Let's get rid of our logging. We don't need that anymore. Looks like we were able to leave the test mostly untouched. We just need to update some documentation there. And get rid of this change. And this change. Oops. Any other dumps? Nope. Any other debuggers? Nope. Okay. So let's snapshot this. Amend. And there's a to-do in here to update some documentation. So param browser win. We should use the same convention, commenting convention throughout here. So, okay, browser win. And then the browser window that the dialog is expected to open in, and this is optional. If not supplied, the original browser window, well, the initial browser window is used of the test run. The initial browser window of the test run is used. Yeah. That's right. Any other to-dos in here? No. All right. Amend. Let's take a look at the patch. Oh, my microphone is slowly like sinking lower and lower. Let's fix that. There you go. Okay. So here's our patch. It's pretty straightforward, actually. Let us put it up on fabricator without the whip. We'll take a quick look at it ourselves. What was the trick to fix the mic? Well, there was a oh, you mean like to make it so that my operating system could recognize it? Or just now whenever I was like fiddling with the knobs? Because it was really just like loosening, adjusting, and tightening. That's how I was able to adjust the mic just now. But I assume you're asking about the operating system. That's a great question. So what I have is a Roland, my USB microphone, my microphone interface. So, okay, I have a Rode NT1 condenser microphone, wide diaphragm condenser microphone that plugs into a pretty old interface. It's called a UA25EX from Roland. Let me see if I can find you a photo of it. Yeah, it's one of these things. And it's been a long time since that was released. The last driver release for Mac OS was, I think, for, let's see, Mac OS 10.11. So, you know, it's not that, oh, the driver 101 for Yosemite, yeah, and for 10.11. So just after Yosemite, whatever was after Yosemite, that is the latest version that they had for Mac OS. And they've stopped releasing drivers for it. They haven't updated the drivers for this in a long time. And after I updated to Big Sur, my microphone wouldn't work. Now, if I installed the driver, this driver, the one for 10.11, it would work until I restarted the machine, and then it would stop working, which was very frustrating. It turned out that the solution was to disable something called System Integrity Protection temporarily. So I uninstalled the driver on, for my operating system, rebooted, and then I rebooted into Mac OS recovery mode. And then in recovery mode, I was able to open up a terminal, System Integrity Protection. I found this like, I spelled that wrong, but you get the idea. I was able to find these instructions. You go into the utilities menu, find a terminal, and you type in CSR util disable, then restart the machine. And then in that mode, you don't have a bunch of like the protections that Mac OS, I think, runs by default to protect you from malicious code, which is, it's not a state you really want to be in, but I was only in there for a little bit. So I turned it off, restarted my machine, then I installed the driver, then I restarted the machine, enabled System Integrity Protection after the fact, and now my microphone works. And it seems to persist after restarts. So that was the trick. Disable, only install the driver whenever System Integrity Protection is disabled. And that was what I needed to do. So hopefully I've got a couple years left on this USB interface. It works perfectly. The microphone works well. The interface works well. I'm happy I didn't have to buy anything new. I'm happy I didn't, it's a perfectly decent piece of hardware. And it would have been very frustrating if, the Mac OS update rendered it unusable. But, things move on. I get it, I shouldn't expect Roland to support this thing for the rest of my life or the rest of its life. They probably have. I wouldn't be surprised if they've lost the source code, and maybe that's one of the reasons why they haven't updated. Or maybe, who knows? Maybe they just don't even have the specs anymore. Maybe the entire team is probably attritioned out of Roland. Who knows? But I was able to make it work for a little while, and that feels good. Okay, so we posted our patch. Let's take a look. A quick look-see. I've asked Mika to review it. So yeah, I'm renaming this thing to Dialogue Helper. And that's it. Let's see how that goes. It's up for review. I'm ready to rock. So I think I'm going to call the stream there. It's not a full-length stream again this time, but I feel like this is a good bookend. So I'm going to stop here. We started, had a nice beginning, middle, and end. Before I close out, though, we have a couple minutes. Are there any questions about what I did today, or maybe anything that you want to ask me? I'm happy to try and field questions if you're curious about stuff. I'll open the floor for a couple of minutes and see if there's anything I can answer. I'll do it with a cool backbeat. I'll answer questions with is that wait no Free Music Archive backbeat. All right, Poddington Bear Lime Beat. What else you got? Jump to the backbeat. Just how about just like background radiation album genre. I want like some good background music. Sunset Stroll, that sounds good. Let's listen to this. Wow. How do I control the volume here? Hang on a second. Hold on. Oh man, where's this audio coming from? Is there an audio element here? All right, I'm just gonna pause the music. The background music was not a good idea. I apologize. It was not a good idea. I wish there was a way I could control the volume. Why was there no like audio element that I could? Is it a video? Like, are there multiple frames in here? Why couldn't I control it? Where? Okay, I have to know. There's got to be an audio element in here, right? No? Where's this music coming from? How are they doing that? I'm very curious. Maybe it's the just using the audio API instead of the DOM. Oh, that could be. That could be. All right, well, let's not worry about it. The questions are, do you think your toolbar icons will take more space than your URL bar by the end of the year? Good question. I have so many in here. What do I have? I've got Privacy Badger, the Profiler, Facebook Container, Relay, Coil, Sidebar. That's a really good question. I've never really thought about it. This is kind of becoming like a little sort of junk drawer of stuff. And there's a bunch of stuff I don't use here often, like the history menu, and I could like remove from my toolbar very easily. What else do I not use often? I use the Facebook Container. Well, I rarely ever go to Facebook, but if I happen to have to go to a Facebook site, I like that it's contained, but I don't need that toolbar there. So I can like remove from the toolbar. And I don't use the Relay. I use Relay for certain things, but I don't need to interact with it. Anything else? I don't think I ever use the sidebar button either. I do interact with Privacy Badger, the Profiler, Coil, yeah, okay. The library? No. I use these two for kind of like a heads up display. I use Pocket. I don't really use the bookmarks button. So, to answer your question, Danny Colon, I got a little distracted doing some cleanup of my junk drawer, but no, I don't think it will take up more space by the end of the year because I will periodically do this kind of cleaning, but thank you. Smurfy asks, if you press the burger audio button, like this one, like this button, so I can definitely mute and unmute the tab, but like, I would have thought that there would be like an underlying audio element that I could then manipulate, but I don't think I can, which is really interesting. I wonder. All right, in the last couple of minutes, let's see how this thing works, because I'm very curious. So this is the icon. There's an event handler here. Let's see what the event handler does. Let's go to it in the debugger. Oh, all this obfuscated stuff. Well, and what was the? Oh man, what did it look like? It's like if target, like Is it this thing? Yeah. Function, wrapper, target owner document, apply. Is that the only? Yeah, okay, it's here. So I'm going to set a breakpoint here. Okay. And we're going to step in. We're in some kind of like view application. Okay. This could be super painful. If is array R. I think I want to step into it. What's happening? Some kind of view thing. Then we're going to call a function. O. Play. That's what I want. Whatever O is. O. This function type of O. Play. Play. With an event. Turn. What? It's all so obfuscated. Okay, what is R now? Payload. That's the event. We have this play type. Then we're going to look at this list of actions. Aha! This is what I want. Play. Let's look at that. This dot underscore actions. Play. Play. R dot sound dot play. New audio. Yeah. So here's what they're doing. They're doing new audio. They're using the audio API. Turns new audio with either be attached to the document for the user to interact with or listen to, or can be used off screen. So that's what's happening. And so if I really want to adjust the sound, I don't think there's anything I can do. Like it's not a DOM element I can like touch. Within this context, I might be able to, if I can get access to the underlying, if I could get access to the underlying audio element or the audio instance, I could manipulate it, but I can't, which is too bad. Huh. All right, well, that's how that works. You know, there might be a way for me to get access to the active like audio. Like, does the audio class give me? No? Okay. It would be cool if there was like a stack method that's like, give me all of the active audio instances, but oh well. Hey dude. So there's some questions, or there's some commentary. Hey dude, what's up? These functions are so easy, man. Yop. I'm not sure if that's sarcasm. Those obfuscated functions. Yeah, this is all garbage, but it's not meant for human consumption. It's sarcasm. Okay, good, good. Yeah, this is just garbage readability wise. Who knows what's going on in here? My man, do you know C++++? I'm not familiar with C+++++. I'm familiar with C++. Unless by C++++ you mean C++11, like the newer versions of it, or like the newer standards on the language. And I am more used to like C++99, I think is what it was called. C++99, like, yeah. what was it called? C++ standard C99 or C98, whatever it was. There was like a version of it that I was really used to. And then there's something called C++11, which has some things that I can read, but I've never really felt comfortable using, like auto pointers, and there's like all this interesting stuff with like L params and R params and move constructors, and like I'm still learning. I need to kind of review that stuff. When will the next, so Crushed Optimist writes, when will the next Firefox Code MSU capstone term start? Great question. So for the people who don't know, Mozilla and the Firefox team participate in a program run by a school in the United States called Michigan State. Michigan State has a computer science and engineering program that we participate in. You can actually find more about it. There's this website, MSU capstone.cse. I guess I don't think they've got an SSL cert, but capstone.cse.msu.edu, and you can find out more about it. There's an upcoming semester, 2021, I guess, next semester will probably be in the fall. Like if we look at the projects and schedules, let's take a look at the major milestones. Yeah, like the most recent one ended in April, so it was just a couple months ago. So it lasted January, February, March, April, 4 months. So it bookends, like it exists and runs during an entire school semester. So you can expect another one to start sometime in September when school starts, I believe. I hope that helps, Crushed Optimist. All right, unless there are any other questions. That website is definitely a table-based layout. Yes, this is blast from the past. The good news is that if you were to boot up an old browser from like the late 90s or the early 2000s, this website would probably render just fine. I bet you it's all tables. Let's see. Oh, actually it's divs. It's divs meant to look like tables. Is there a table in here? Query selector table. No, there are no tables, but it is designed to look like tables. Amazing. Anyway, I'm a big fan of this program. We've had some really great success with it. Most recently, we've had a number of students work on various picture-in-picture improvements, and it's, the students that come out of this program are really, really diligent, really capable. And I think they get a lot out of it too. Like we work with them, they learn about open source, they learn about working on real software that ships to like hundreds of millions of people and code quality, all sorts of things. So it's a good program. And if people who are watching this are at a school, maybe you're at Michigan State, but maybe you're not, maybe you're at a different school, it's worth checking to see if you have like project courses available. When I was in school, I went to a school in Toronto, and it wasn't like highly publicized. I had to find it in the course calendar, and it was pretty deep in there. It was an upper year project course where you, the student, get to sort of work with a professor to define a project that lasts a semester, and you can get credit for it. It's almost like a research project, but I ended up writing a bunch of or contributing to open source software for part of my undergrad in my final year using that capstone course, and I learned so much. And if you're lucky enough to have a program like the capstone program at MSU, that's great. But sometimes you can do it yourself by, talking to a professor, talking to a course instructor or something to see if there's something like sort of roll your own course credit by contributing to open source thing. Project courses are where you can learn a whole lot. That's my experience anyways. That's where I learned just the vast majority of my practical skill was from my project courses. That's not to say that the theoretical courses weren't handy. For example, I learned a lot of discrete math and matrix stuff that ends up making graphics code really sort of like that really helps if you're in graphics land, you're doing like matrix transforms and stuff, or writing shaders. Suddenly, discrete math is really practical. But I gotta say, a lot of what I learned in those project courses ended up being what I use every day in my work. So yeah, I'm going to call it there. Thank you so much for watching episode 252 of The Joy of Coding. I really appreciated you being here. It was a palindrome episode. I don't know what that means. It's just that the number is the same forwards and backwards. They happen periodically. I think the last one that happened was probably 240. Well, I guess what was the last time we were at 242? I guess, yeah. The last time it ended in 2 and there was another number in the middle was 242. So it was only 10 episodes ago. And we'll probably have another palindrome in 10 episodes. Will be my guess, I predict. So not as special as you'd think. But as we get to higher and higher episodes, it'll probably become a little less common. Who knows? Maybe we'll crack 1,000 someday. And then palindromes will be like really rare. How rare? Well, write a Python script and tell me. Let me know. Okay. Again, I will see you next week for episode 253. Thank you so much for watching The Joy of Coding. Have yourselves a great week. Take care. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.